the rules of origin have now been concluded, which means that we have an opportunity to unlock opportunities for production of vehicles and components across the African continent. In this regard, we have secured a financing facility of $1.2 billion from Afrexim Bank to ensure that no country is left behind, whether it is a producer of a vehicle or a producer of a component. This is where an opportunity lies for MSMEs. In agriculture and agro-processing, in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation and Trademark Africa, we are implementing a 4-year fisheries program focused on women and youth-led MSMEs in cross-border trade. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and the DRC are some of the countries in the East African community that are participating in this pilot, which is projected to create over 240,000 jobs and boost fish trade production by over $100 million by the year 2030. In the area of textiles and clothing, which is equally a driver of Africa's employment, I'm happy to report to you that rules of origin have been also concluded, as well as a landmark agreement to ban second-hand clothing, which for a very long time has been a source of market displacement in our continent. By this decision, the Assembly of Heads of States and Government has taken a commitment to protect Africa's textiles industries, attract new investment, and reinforce value chain, value production in Africa. In the area of pharmaceuticals, working with the Africa CDC, the AFCFTA Secretariat is advancing on a pooled procurement mechanism to aggregate demand and guarantee markets for pharmaceutical production, again, in Africa. This initiative is intended to strengthen local production, to create opportunities for supply chain resilience, and reduce imports of pharmaceutical products into our continent. To empower our MSMEs directly, we are encouraging the establishment of AFCFTA trading companies that will aggregate production from small producers to regional and global markets. These aggregators consolidate production, ensure standards compliance, and improve access to finance and logistics. Kenya, Ghana, Egypt, Rwanda, and South Africa have already established these AFCFTA trading companies intended to drive aggregation of production for market access. Cabinet Secretary mentioned the digital economy. The backbone of the AFCFTA will be to digitize our trade. That is why the e-tariff book of the AFCFTA, the electronic rules of origin, and other digital tools that have been deployed shall enable and empower SMEs to make informed decisions about the markets that they wish to export to and to connect to new markets across our continent. Your Excellencies, as the AFCFTA Secretariat, we congratulate the East African community on this 25-year milestone that we are celebrating today. And the message is quite clear. Regional value chains are the foundation of continental competitiveness. We witnessed this during the COVID-19 pandemic. East Africa's achievements in agro-processing, leather, textiles, pharmaceuticals, and the digital economy provide a very strong basis for expansion into new markets within the framework of the AFCFTA. In an era that is increasingly defined by the weaponization of trade, the weaponization of industrial policy, the weaponization of tariffs, the weaponization of investment policy, our continent must urgently accelerate the development of our own resilient value chains. And this is why we fully support the initiative that Madam Executive Director of ITC mentioned and reported, mobilization of ministers and SMEs to provide support to enable our SMEs to continue to be the backbone of Africa's industrial development. And so as we pursue inclusive growth, we must ensure that the benefits of integration reach every part of our continent, every company, every informal trader, every smallholder farmer must benefit from this market of 1.4 billion people. That is why the Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade is so absolutely critical. Not only should we celebrate this protocol because it is the first of its kind around the world, but I believe we should celebrate this protocol because it enables us to transcend beyond sentimental aspirations about creating opportunities for women-led MSMEs and young people, but it enables us to codify into legally binding obligations the opportunities that we believe are required in order to see this inclusive growth that all of us desire. As I conclude, let me say the following. I've had the opportunity to have discussions with our commercial banks and our development finance institutions over the last 5 years regarding this question of trade finance. My conclusion is that the challenge is not lack of liquidity. Rather, the challenge is to ensure the bankability of our SMEs, the bankability of our informal traders, the bankability of our smallholder farmers to ensure that they have access to affordable trade finance that will enable them to expand beyond their regions onto other parts of the continent. In this regard, we commit to work with our partners, including the UN, its agencies, the development finance institutions in Africa, to mobilize our development finance institutions and private capital and commercial banks to ensure the affordability of the capital that we know is there. This will require that we move beyond, of course, the platitudes that we make about SMEs to develop an action plan that will jointly be presented to our commercial banks, to our development finance institutions, to ensure that we reduce the cost of trade finance. We have already initiated these discussions, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we are aware that the capital does exist. What we have to focus on is how to unlock that capital. For example, the African Development Bank alone has a facility of $2.5 billion intended for women-led SMEs. The question is, how do we work together to unlock access to that capital? This, I believe, where we are able to ensure the bankability of our SMEs, I believe herein lies the opportunity to accelerate the industrial development of our continent. Markets have dried up. AGOA is gone. 15 up to 50% tariffs on imports into the United States from African countries. Many countries in Africa, including Kenya, Somalia, South Africa, Ghana, Angola, Nigeria, Madagascar, as a result of these tariffs and as a result of the expiry of AGOA, have lost market share in the US. Where do these products go to? We have a market here on our continent of 1.4 billion people. However, it is a deeply fragmented market. That is why we have to accelerate the implementation of the AfCFTA as a tool for integration and creating a single market. Our continent has no business, absolutely no business, begging a third country for market access. We have a vibrant economy. We have a youthful continent. We have SMEs that are competitiveness potentially where they gain the support that is required to enable them to trade and expand their businesses. What we do require is to ensure applications of the rules of the AFCFTA in the creation of a single market. Although many countries that I've mentioned will suffer in the short term as a result of the expiry of AGOA, and in particular, our SMEs will suffer in the short term as a result of the expiry of AGOA, as a result of the imposition of these unlawful tariffs. I believe that in the medium to long term, in this crisis, is an opportunity for us as Africans to create our own market, to ensure self-sufficiency of our continent, and to ensure that no longer do we go anywhere else in the world to beg for a market. This is the opportunity that the AFCFTA presents to all of us. And so we commit to work with the East African community, to work with all regional economic communities to ensure that indeed the dream of our founding mothers and fathers of creating a single market in Africa does not remain just in a trade agreement, but that dream does indeed become a reality where we create commercially meaningful trade opportunities across our continent. This shall require upscaling of our SMEs, upscaling of our informal traders, upscaling of our smallholder farmers to ensure that they meet the standards and the requirements of trade under the AFCFTA. That is why the partnerships that exist with Afreximbank, with ITC, and others are critically important for ensuring readiness for export. And so I want, as I close, to congratulate you once again for this achievement and to say that, yes, as much as we can celebrate the progress, much remains to be done. Consider the AFCFTA Secretariat to be your partner. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Another round of applause, please. One takeaway is that we need to make our MSME become bankable so that we can unlock trade financing. So I'm just wondering, as I invite the next speaker, Secretary to the Cabinet, Mercy Wanjau, who will be speaking to us on how we can cash out on the technology adaptability that the African continent have, and what can we make of which currency can we have there that can enable us in view of the collateralization. Because, Your Excellency, yes, I agree, it's bankability is on one side, but most of these facilities are structured in a manner that our MSMEs cannot also have access to them. So how can technology help us to build that capability? And on stage now is the Secretary to the Cabinet. We'll be talking about the progress we're making on technology and opportunity we have there to increase access, or rather to unlock access to trade financing. Madam Mercy Wanjau, karibu, makofi.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Mine is to set the scene for the panels, and standing here, having been sitting there and looking this way and then looking the other way, it's really been well set. And of course, being here with all the relevant stakeholders present to this commitment on the EAC MSMEs and partners that are cut across the globe on a milestone moment, the 25th year, this is really as good as it gets. So I set the scene against the topic of how digital technologies can unlock green innovations for MSMEs and also financing. This is the topics that will be discussed for the next two panels. I use the e-citizen platform as the example, the gateway through which MSMEs access all government services in this country. Imagine with me a woman on the shores of Lake Victoria, let's call her Atieno, registering a business there. She's an entrepreneur in Kisumu, and she does it within minutes. Within minutes, she's able to do it on the e-citizen platform that is cast on there on the slide. On the other hand, is Hamisi at the coast in Mombasa, registering a business while fishing within minutes, so long as he has a device. Let's take this walk together. This is the story from Kenya to the East African community and indeed to the world. How do digital platforms enable green innovations? This is the story of access of the national dashboard of the e-citizen platform. 4.9 million females accessing the platforms on a daily, 7.34 males accessing that platform. And you know what's even more interesting is the age demographics that you see there. The largest demography that accesses is between 26 and 44 years. The Honorable Minister spoke about the youth bulge, and indeed you can see they are aggressively accessing this platform. What does this mean for us when we talk about MSME registration and licensing? That you do not have to leave your business to travel and go to many offices to obtain certificates. Less use of paper, and therefore a higher green footprint. The maintenance of digital payments and records. What could be the impact on MSMEs, on women and men and the youth? What contribution could the data generated from this platform do to reduce development gaps and contribute towards poverty alleviation? These are some of the questions that we ask ourselves as we continue to work on the e-citizen platform. Next slide. That's our e-citizen journey in the 5th administration, starting off in 2022 with 397 services, moving on to 5,087 in 2023, and currently at 22,000 services, a 2,000% growth. These are primary and secondary services. We have 84.91 services onboarded, and we still have some that continue to be onboarded. And the question that I ask to this very distinguished set out of stakeholders is, what would this mean in terms of innovation, access to green financing, access to markets? How should it count for MSMEs, which, as we have heard, are 90% of business and significant percentages in terms of employment and GDP? What would competitiveness look like? What would that look like? This is a question for all countries globally, and this is a question that we also ask day in, day out, because majority of our populations are employed in the informal sector. There is the need for sustainability, a need to adopt green innovation benefits to lower costs, new markets, and move towards resilience. The e-citizen platform, indeed, with that number of services, should mean something for an MSME. It should generate data that enables decision-making that would be applied for public policy for the benefit of the MSME, and that way enhance competitiveness and access to market. should the behavior of the MSME on the eCitizen platform generate some kind of points that could be leveraged for financing? Should that behavior count for something? I think it should, so that in a space where MSMEs are viewed as high risk, other alternatives that are available on the digital platform can then be leveraged and lower the risk profile for this same borrower, and therefore behavior contributes to green access and even to opening up the purse strings, whether it is on mobile lending or green financing, because the data will speak to it. These, as you can tell, are frontier conversations. These are conversations that are being driven by the information we continue to see generated on that platform. And mine would be to say to the partners gathered here, how then can we appropriate the data that is available, the behavioral trends that we see, in order to forecast for policy and insights and to guide incentives, green incentives, financing incentives. Indeed, challenges have been spoken to: the need for universal access for all players, the need to develop tools that recognize and incentivize green businesses, and this, I believe, will be the conversation of the day. Imagine with me if we allowed on the eCitizen platform a registration that would allow an MSME to be recognized as a green-oriented enterprise. And that would then generate a licensing discount, for example. It would then provide a situation where government is able to track the MSMEs that are on green uptake and incentivize them accordingly. What would this do? It would lead to high behavioral impact because the discounts count for something. It would lead to formalization of green compliance and improve MSME access to green financing and training and future incentive. This is what we are seeking for. Next slide. These are the revenues that have been generated all along on the eCitizen platform. It is a platform that generates revenue for government. It can also generate benefit for the MSME user in building digital solutions for MSMEs led by the private sector to measure impact and reduce waste. If you could just go back to the last slide. For all those number of services, they must count for something. And this is a call to action for the private sector to innovate and to co-create. For the MSMEs to be encouraged to start small, use mobile tools for record keeping, energy tracking, and logistics efficiency. As I come to a close, I note that across the EAC, our countries are progressing at different speeds, and that is all right. What matters is that we move forward with a shared vision. Growth of regional business that is seamless and where opportunity flows freely. And I am very encouraged by the words that were spoken by the chief guest, AFCFTA, on the initiatives and the movements that are being made. So, do we want to go fast? No. Because if we go fast, we will go alone. Do we want to go far? Yes, because we want to innovate, we want to create, to co-create, because then we will go together. This is the scene setting that I have for you. I hope the scene setting has provoked the need to really jump onto the digital platforms for the partners here to enable that utility of digital platforms because of the benefits that can be created to enable MSMEs to navigate new business frontiers as one people, one destiny. Thank you.
Once again, let's clap for her. Thank you. thank you so much, and I want to pray that you stay so that you can also, I know there are people here who have a lot of questions. They need to understand this great innovation that you're doing. So you stay and help us to unlock that in our 2 panel that you're going to have shortly. Allow me, as I calling now the ITC expert, to come and also gives us strategies and policies for trail Florania Borino. Also to acknowledge the presence of Nairobi County who are in the room. Wherever you are, let's acknowledge them. The CECs and all the CECs, you can just stand up so that we acknowledge, because you're working with the county. We have 2 levels of governance, so I want to thank you for that. So allow me to call in, thank you so much. Floriana Borino, thank you. Karibu.
Hamjambo, everyone. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, good morning. It's really a pleasure to be with you today. It's an honor. Micro and small, medium-sized enterprises are the backbone of our economies, and their ability to compete increasingly depends on how well they can adapt to changes. At ITC, we have been working closely with EAC partners to understand how digitalization, sustainability, finance, and market access come together to shape SME competitiveness. So these 4 areas are deeply interconnected and form the basis of my presentation today. Next slide, please. Next. Sorry. Well, okay. So in today's global economy, digital transformation is no longer optional for small businesses. It's essential to boost productivity, to reach new markets, and to stay competitive. From our data collected from over 7,000 companies in 78 countries globally, we know that over 80% of companies report that digital technologies increase sales and reduce costs. Yet, not all companies benefit equally. Many still struggle to adopt digital technologies. How many of you hear from SMEs that digital tools are too expensive or too complex? Can you raise your hands? Yes. Yes, indeed. And so our analysis identifies 3 key policy areas that can help to accelerate SME digitalization. So first, make digital technologies more affordable, encouraging public and private investment in infrastructure, reducing the cost of connectivity, and enabling access to data processing infrastructure that are increasingly important given the AI. All of these to make technology more accessible and affordable for MSMEs. Second, close the digital skills gap. Integrating digital skills in education since early age and expanding private sector-led trainings can accelerate the use of digital services and tools. And third, create a supportive regulatory framework. So updating the regulatory toolbox to ensure interoperability, improving regulatory coordination, and adopting a risk-based approach, what is called SME de minimis. All this can ease SME compliance with digital regulation. So drawing on best practices from all over the world, the white paper fostering the digital transformation of small businesses prepared for the ITC Global SME Ministerial really offer concrete and actionable insights to guide policymakers in advancing digital transformation. So, yeah, you're already in the next slide. So, digital transformation can make companies more competitive. But competitiveness today also requires sustainability. And this brings us to the second area today, green competitiveness. So taking green action is not just good for the planet. It's also a smart business move. ITC surveys from over 4,000 companies in 20 countries show that 80% of companies that invested in climate mitigation measures have unlocked new opportunities, especially in market access. Yet, most small businesses struggle to transition to sustainable practices. Only 38% of companies implemented adaptation measures, and just 37% of companies interviewed took steps to reduce their environmental footprint. So our research identified, again, 3 critical areas where targeted policy action can help to accelerate the green transition for small businesses. First, increase the affordability of green technologies. So strengthening access to green finance, making sustainable practices more financially viable for SMEs is critical. Second, closing the green skills gaps. Developing green skills among workers, entrepreneurs, but also among business support organizations is essential to build a workforce that is ready for the green transition. And creating a supportive regulatory framework. Again, streamlining environmental regulation can help MSMEs navigate compliance more easily. And drawing on global best practices, the white paper fostered the green competitiveness of small businesses, provide actionable guidance for policymakers to drive forward the green transition. So next slide, please. Both digital and green transformation, however, requires investment. And we heard about this from the previous speakers as well, which leads us to the third area, critical, access to finance. So access to finance is a lifeline for small businesses. Firm needs appropriate sources of financing across all stages of their life cycle, from creation to development to growth. And finance is not only essential for day-to-day expenses, but also to enable strategic investment that are so needed. But too many companies still face roadblocks. According to ITC data, 43% of companies report difficulties in securing finance, and these rise to 57% for micro companies. So our research again identified 3 critical areas where targeted policy action can make a difference for small businesses. First, increase affordability. So expand the range of financing instruments, lowering the risk of lenders, and reducing borrowing costs by leveraging digital technologies, as the previous speaker was mentioning. All this can make finance more accessible and affordable for SMEs. Second, close the skills gap in finance, what before was mentioned, bankability. Boosting financial literacy among small businesses, but also raising awareness among credit officials of the SME-specific realities. This can help to bridge the disconnect between the supply and the demand for finance. And finally, create a supportive regulatory environment where it's important to update policy and regulation to encourage innovative financing models, but at the same time maintain financial integrity and stability is essential. And drawing again on global best practices, the white paper fostering access to finance for small businesses offer concrete and actionable insights that government can adapt to their national context and help small businesses to secure the capital they need to grow. So taking together this, next slide please, these 3 white papers that was produced for the ITC Global Ministerial give us a roadmap of how countries can support digital, green, and financial transformation. But EAC region is not starting from scratch. Actually, across East Africa, governments have already developed innovative approaches in each of these areas. So let me briefly highlight just 3 concrete examples, one on digital skills, one on green affordability, and one on financial innovation, to show how EAC countries are already put this principle in practice. So first, Rwanda definitely offers an inspiring example for digital transformation. It became a technological hub in Africa, and in 2017, the government launched the Digital Ambassador Program. So this to increase digital literacy of Rwandan people, and the program recruits young people to provide digital literacy in their community. It started with just 50 digital ambassadors, and now it has over 2,000 digital ambassadors across the country. And these ambassadors have trained over 3 million people in Rwanda and increased the digital literacy from 10% to 75% in just 7 years. So it's a great success story. Second, Uganda also provides a strong example of improving affordability of green technologies. In 2024, Uganda Energy Credit Capitalization Company launched the price subsidy program to lower the cost of clean technology for households and companies, especially in remote areas. So the initiative, for example, subsidized 60% of the cost of solar lanterns, energy power, productive equipment such as water pumping, irrigation, refrigeration, and so on. Third, in access to finance, Kenya is definitely a successful example, with M-Pesa expanding financial services to millions of underserved customers. And to regulate in this innovative and fast-changing environment, regulatory sandboxes were extremely useful. So, for example, firms like Pezesa tested a crowdfunding platform through which investors can provide loans to small and medium-sized enterprises. And the Capital Market Authority used these tests to create guidelines for crowdfunding in Kenya, and ensuring that government initiatives are informed by on-the-ground realities. So finally, I could not conclude my presentation today without talking about market access, that today, unfortunately, is under extreme pressure. So even the most competitive companies need market access to fully realize their potential. And actually, if you go to the next slide, you will see, next slide, okay, that EAC could benefit from changing tariff dynamics under the AFCFTA. So according to ITC calculation, EAC intra-regional tariffs are projected to decline from 6.1% to only 3.2%. And this decline in tariff is particularly important today, as the average tariff faced by EAC exporters in the global market are actually, unfortunately, increasing from 2.2% globally to 3%. And this really underscores the critical importance of strengthening regional trade. Also, ITC estimates that 43% or 2.8 billion of EAC intra-regional export potential remains untapped. And this is mainly in minerals and metals, cereal products, and vegetable products, indicating that there are a lot of opportunities for expansion. And then, last slide, please. To unlock this big export potential in the region, in the EAC region, EAC countries must also tackle non-tariff measures. According to the ITC survey, 64% of EAC companies report difficulties with non-tariff measures. and conformity assessment emerge as the most common challenge. But in addition to regulation being too strict and too complex to comply with, also procedural obstacles are a barrier. Things like time delays, high or informal fees also create obstacles. And therefore, harmonizing standards and regulation is essential, but trade facilitation is also very important to address procedural obstacles. So let me conclude by saying that these 4 areas, digital transformation, green competitiveness, access to finance, and market access, form a roadmap for stronger SME growth in EAC. The example from the region show that progress are not only possible, but they are already happening. So now is the moment to scale these successes and remove the remaining barriers and ensure that every MSME has the opportunity to compete and grow. So I look forward for the discussion, for the panel discussion, and thank you very much. Asante. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Asante and Karibu. So what we've done, we have reorganized, we have fused the 2 panels into one, and I'll be humbly seeking for your patience for only 30 minutes, and then from there we break for lunch. So Georgie and Rose, kindly come forward and call your panelists. Churchill, help them to set the stage, because this is just a fireside chat. We've heard everything, but then it's also good to have such responses. 30 minutes of your time, and then we can progress for lunch. As men of that opinion say aye. I am saying let down. As men of that opinion say aye. I have it. Thank you.
All right. So, my name is George Ndirango. My name is George Ndirango, overseeing programs at the Africa Leadership and Dialogue Institute. As the chairs come on, I'd like to ask us a few questions to sense check where we are before the conversation kicks off. Please put your hand up if you can. Just one hand, one hand. It's all right, I'll move. It's okay. Don't worry, it doesn't mean I'll ask you a question. It's okay, I can see the hands going down. Please put your hand up if you can. I have a few questions for you. Just, it's okay. Let them go up. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Put your finger down if you've ever had a brilliant, world-changing business idea and then spent 30 minutes on a bank's website trying to find an application form. Put a finger down if you've ever looked at a 50-page application for a grant or a loan and thought, you know what, I'm okay. Put it down if you have a relative who runs a small business and they use you as their unpaid consultant. Did you put your hand down? Okay. We have about $1.1 trillion in global green financing, 1% going to Africa. We have a lot more conversations that are layered about what's remaining with small businesses, both to access finance, either individually in local countries or across the region. For the purpose of this conversation now, we'd like to unpack it slightly. So we have the leadership across our different institutions, and of course, within Kenya will be represented as well, and of course the Continental Free Trade Area will have representation on stage. The aim of this panel is to move from just conversation within the room to unpack what it means for us to say that we are fully supporting MSMEs, but from a very macro level all the way till grassroots. For that, we have an esteemed set of panelists. I'll call them up right now. Please allow me to call on stage Rosalind Ngeno from AFCFTA. Please join us on stage. PS Caroline Karugu from Kenya, overseeing EC Affairs. Please join us on stage as well. PS Regina Ombam, overseeing trade. Please join us on stage. Elizabeth Wasuna from Absa Bank, please join us on stage. And of course, dear PS Christine, overseeing MSMEs in Burundi, please join us on stage as well. Now, as we kick off, we'd like to please call all the premiers. If we could kindly take a quick photo. In case any one of you rushes out, we'd like to just start by taking a quick photo, and then we'll carry on with the panel. So please join us on stage. Kindly, Edie, please join us on stage as well. We'd like to take a... Panelists, please.
Elizabeth?
Just remember, we are live on television.
That's very, very good to know. Asante sana, in case anything slips out. You be there? Alrighty, so no worries.
Okay. We have the difficult job of standing between everybody and the next very important agenda, which is lunch. But the conversation that we're about to have is very important. And I think every speaker that has come on to take the podium today has mentioned access to finance, access to markets, access to digital technology and what digital technology can do for us. So this is what the conversation will center around. My name is Mombi Maina, and I lead access to finance at the International Trade Center. I'm very happy and honored to be here. So Honorable CS left us with clear instructions. He said, make this conversation as practical as it can be. Let it make sense to those people that are exhibiting out there. And I want to kick off by making it make sense from a continental perspective. So I'll come to you, Rosalind, to understand this AFCFTA, that word that goes around and that is thrown, that is, we say is $1 billion opportunity. What does it mean for the micro, the small, and the medium enterprises, and how can they channel and access it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it is good to put it on a continental perspective. But before I speak to what I've asked, I would like to congratulate Kenya and the EAC for this well put together fair. The Africa Continental Free Trade is an agreement that 55 countries, well, 54 have signed it, and now 50 countries have ratified. What this means is that there is opportunity for free movement of persons, free movement of goods, services, and there is also the opportunity to ensure that there is economic diversity in the continent. So speaking now to the MSMEs. Currently, the East Africa, when you look at the statistics, intra-EAC trade is about 15%, right? But we have a market of 1.4 billion persons under the AfCFTA umbrella. And the AfCFTA, in order to ensure that these 1.4 billion persons are tapped and they become customers and they become entrepreneurs and they become the drivers of the economy, we have protocols and frameworks that then bring in place harmonization of laws. So we have a critical protocol on women and youth in trade. The Women and Youth in Trade protocol that was adopted by the heads of state this year is speaking about how SMEs are incentivized to access funding, how governments should create opportunities through the incentives that they would give banks, through opportunities for cross-border value chains. So what we have right now in our various countries is that without access to finance, our MSMEs remain national. So when they remain national, they are not competitive. But when the regulations, the frameworks under the AfCFTA are implemented, including the protocol on investment, the digital trade protocol, the intellectual property rights protocol, the competition protocol, all these come together and we are able to then support the SMEs into operating in the region. They operate in the region through finance by standardization. So their products are standardized and they're able to access the continental market. Secondly, they are able to scale. So when they don't have finances, they cannot scale. The AfCFTA provides that opportunity for scale. And so when they are able to scale, then they can take continental orders. And then they also become bankable. When they have finance, when they are able to scale, they can attract private capital. They attract private capital. We have the protocol on investment that has provided for opportunities on how SMEs can be supported through attracting private capital, through ensuring that the investment environment where they are operating is effective. So that is how, at the continental level, we see it. We actually see, just to use an analogy, we see the SMEs as a lifeblood for regional integration. And we then see that without finance, or rather the finance itself become the oxygen where they build the bridges for the local SMEs to connect with the continental regional value chain. So that's how, in an introductory part, how this works.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think, you know, the continent can seem too big an ambition. So I want to see how we can do it also at, and I'm coming to you, you can tell I'm coming to you, how we can do it at a regional level. Because if we cannot trade, if we cannot make it work with our neighbors here, we have no business going to Nigeria and Morocco and the rest of the continent. So, PS Karugu, what efforts, and also I want to mention, she said 15% intra-EAC trade, which is not bad. And in the last year, 13% increase in what in intra-EAC. So you're doing something right. And we'd like to hear what you have in place to strengthen regional integration and trade happening within the EAC. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Of course, yes, we are doing a few things that have clearly worked. Let me start by saying that the EAC Common Market Protocol, I think it's Article 4, guarantees free movement of people, of labor, of goods and services across the East African borders. The founding fathers of the East African community did not see borders, they saw bridges. They did not see Kenyans, Tanzanians, Ugandans, and everybody else. They saw East Africans, and they saw brothers and sisters who would trade together, who would grow together, and who would be able to progress as a region. And to that end, the EAC has been deliberate on ensuring that efficiency in cross-border trade becomes a live subject that we address ourselves to every so often. You would be aware we have the one-stop border posts, or what we call the OSBPs, in all partner states. I think there are 14 across all the 8 partner states. And what we attempt to do there in our one-stop border posts is for traders and for business people, for MSMEs who want to access trade across the region, get efficiencies and clearances at a one-stop. Initially, and the MSMEs would tell you that, they would spend days in the borders just trying to transport their wares and transport themselves and get clearances for their goods. Over and above that, I'm sure you would know about the simplified trading regime and the protocols around it. And now, we at every border spot, we have the simplified certificate of origin issued gratis for MSMEs who are trading goods that are below $2,000 worth. And therefore, these efforts have been deliberate by the EAC to ensure that the MSME sector feels that the EAC is enabling their trade across borders. And with this, we have seen an upsurge of especially perishable goods, our curios across the borders, which has been one good step to the right direction. I guess the million-dollar question right now, and like I said at my opening remarks, is then how can we scale these MSMEs from just those who are trading $2,000 across borders to multi-million companies that are free to access the East African community market. And therefore, the question then is, how can we ensure that these MSMEs have access to affordable, sustainable credit? Is it private sector? Is it the World Bank? It's a conversation that's got to be had. I know partner states and governments across the East African community have also been deliberate to that end. For instance, a good case, a classic case is the Republic of Kenya with the Hustler Fund, which my sister there can speak at length about. But the idea of the Hustler Fund is to be able to give access to perhaps those who do not have bankable ideas according to, for instance, the commercial banks. And they can have a place where they can access capital to scale their businesses from medium to small, from micro to small, from small to medium, and to large enterprises, and be able to access the East African. I know there is a program like that in the Republic of Rwanda. I think they will give their own story. But such programs are able to then help us give access to our MSMEs, give credit access to our MSMEs, and also credit guarantee programs. Kenya runs one of those programs. I was looking at the statistics yesterday, and I was seeing we have 4,316 beneficiaries, direct beneficiaries to some of these programs that also have a ripple effect of about 22,700 Kenyans who are benefiting from such credit guarantees. And therefore, the sky is the limit as to what we can do to ensure that our MSMEs, one, are able to access the market, two, are able to scale their businesses, and three, are able to get return on their investments. I thank you.
Thank you. Perfect, thank you. Thank you very much, PS. Thank you, Rosalind. Perfect segue, because we're coming to Madam Ombam, of course, overseeing trade. Now, the context has been set, and we've heard a lot about the market size and the opportunities both within EAC and now within AFCFTA. That conversation is quickly growing. What do we see as now a priority as we move towards placing SMEs into that competitive area? We've talked a lot about making sure that the SMEs are ready. How do we make sure they're extremely ready? They've been ready. But how do we now make sure that they are deliberately fit into that whole equation? The policies are aligning, but we need to know it's as deliberate as possible.
Thank you. And that's a tough one. I should have seen you at the back of the tent so that you tell me what you're going to ask me, then I come in prepared. But principally, what we are seeing here is that there's a lot of focus on the big ticket items of what needs to happen. And we really need to bring it down to the MSMEs themselves in terms of, first, here we are pushing and saying we need to get them to leverage on technology, but we are really not talking about the enabler itself. How is our internet like? How is our energy infrastructure like? So that we actually make it possible for these MSMEs to join into that technology as required. We are also talking about access to credit, but are we really getting them to fully understand that they have alternative ways of getting credit rather than just the traditional ways of looking for collateral and going to the bank? Are we really pushing the agenda for the online financing that is easy for them, the issue of credit scores that could actually be something that they can use instead of really having to put a physical collateral in itself? And then we are talking about having all these registration processes simplified. But have we educated them so that they know that these are things that you need to know so that when you go into that, you understand? We are talking about expanding the market, making them access bigger markets out there. But do we even have academies or for lack of a better word, where these MSMEs can come in and they are taught to understand, to access the EU market? These are the key things that you need to know so that when you're now going into that business, you fully understand the market, what the market asks for and what the market demands for. So I think the biggest thing that we really need to do going forward is really give that information that we have on our side, and we have it so much, we really need to disseminate it to the players themselves so that they can use it for purposes of making informed decisions going forward.
All right. Okay, Elizabeth, will come to you for the money conversation last, once the road has been set. But Christine Rajira oversees MSMEs in Burundi as PS. So Christine, please, mon français n'est pas très bon. Permettez-moi parler d'anglais, s'il vous plaît. Bon, if any of you have the translating devices, you could wear them now. She would love to speak in French. But we know Burundi is heavily focused on digital financial inclusion. 2040 Emerging Burundi, Vision 2060 Developed Burundi. I know we were supposed to speak about the green and digital financing, particularly with this conversation, but let us know what you're doing within those two that I've mentioned, where we're now factoring sustainability for small businesses.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tout le monde. Good morning to everyone. Merci pour m'avoir permis de parler en français parce que depuis le matin, nous avons parlé en anglais alors que notre diversité fait notre force. Et pour aller directement avec la question, distinguer d'excellence, avec la vision du Burundi qui doit être un pays émergent en 2040 et un pays développé en 2060, et le Burundi est en train de promouvoir la transformation économique et digitale des petites et moyennes entreprises. Et pour permettre l'accès au financement, je citerai les programmes qui sont mis en œuvre. Il y a particulièrement le programme d'autonomisation des jeunes qui facilite l'accès au financement pour les jeunes. Il y a aussi la banque des jeunes, mais aussi il y a la banque des femmes. Toutes ces initiatives visent à faciliter l'accès au financement de ces petites initiatives. Certes, les défis ne manquent pas, mais quand même, les efforts sont entrepris pour faciliter le financement, l'accès au financement de ces petites et moyennes entreprises. Le Burundi envisage de valider la semaine prochaine une stratégie nationale de développement du commerce électronique et de son guide opérationnel qui constitue un système où tous les intervenants pourront être ensemble, contribuer activement pour développer le commerce électronique, le e-commerce, qui va faciliter la communication avec le reste du monde. Et nous espérons que ça sera une bonne occasion pour faciliter les initiateurs de projets pour accéder aux différents marchés régionaux et internationaux. Et à cela s'ajoutent les réformes qui sont envisagées dans notre communauté, l'EAC, mais aussi au niveau de la communauté africaine pour faciliter la participation aux différents événements tels que cette foire, parce que ça constitue une opportunité d'échanger les expériences. Donc, nous nous efforçons pour faciliter la participation des initiateurs de petits projets et les petites et moyennes entreprises pour participer et rencontrer les autres promoteurs afin d'échanger l'expérience. Bien sûr, nous les encadrons et les encourageons de former des coopératives parce qu'ensemble, ils peuvent faire mieux pour renforcer leurs capacités, surtout que le besoin de la formation ou le renforcement des capacités est toujours nécessaire. Je citerai, comme ma collègue l'a déjà dit, la libre circulation, la facilitation de la libre circulation des biens, des services et des personnes au niveau de la région et aussi au niveau de l'Afrique. Par rapport à la question relative à la transition écologique, c'est une question très pertinente parce que ça demande une force, l'implication du gouvernement. Et le gouvernement a mis en avant la politique de mise en place des infrastructures écologiques. C'est ainsi que le Burundi est en train de développer le projet de chemin de fer qui va relier le Burundi, la RDC et la Tanzanie, parce que nous estimons que c'est un mode de transport très écologique, mais aussi des initiatives pour le développement du commerce sur le lac Tanganyika. Ça va faciliter le commerce, mais sous un volet très écologique. Et nous aussi, au Burundi, nous encourageons la mise en place de projets de recyclage parce qu'on ne parle plus de déchets, mais on veut transformer ce qu'on appelait les déchets vers des produits rentables. C'est-à-dire s'il y a initiative de transformation des déchets, il y a automatiquement un accompagnement par le gouvernement du Burundi. Merci pour ne pas être très long.
Merci, PS, pour la response. A lot is happening in Burundi. I know the development strategy and practical guide, as you were saying, is going to be adopted next week. So there's a lot happening there. Congratulations for all the efforts happening. Let's talk money.
Yeah, let's talk money, because that's what everyone wants to hear, how to access it. And Elizabeth, I'll ask you the question in two parts, because we were sort of setting you up for this question, as you can tell. The market certainly is there. The opportunities there, the infrastructure is being created by all the different actors for the SMEs to thrive through that space, but without capital, none of it will really come to fruition. So my question to you is, one, what's the next level? What is ABSA seeing and your peers seeing as the next level for financing SMEs? And two, what can all of us as ecosystem actors do differently or do more of to enable more capital to flow to the SMEs? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. And indeed, it's a question that I keep getting asked every so often. What are we doing? From a bank perspective. But I'm also cognizant that I'm sitting between you and your lunch, so I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible. But also just mentioning that, these SMEs that we first of all talk about, who are they? I don't think there's anybody in this room who doesn't fit in that SME group. When we finish with our formal jobs, we'll become SMEs, right? True? So it's in our interest that this conversation on SMEs is resolved from the people in this room, because we need to create that environment to be able to work as an SME. So to the question that you've spoken about, what's the next level of financing? There's a lot banks are doing the last 5 years to incorporate, to support, to drive the growth of SMEs. Is it enough? The jury's out there. I mean, there's a lot more to be done. From where I sit, there are two basic principles that we must be able to embrace to ensure that we are walking the journey with SMEs. And I say walking the journey because there are things that we know, there are things that we don't know. COVID taught us we don't know much. So we must walk with SMEs along the way. So when I talk about two things, one is to provide sustainable financing for SMEs. There is no way we can provide that financing if we sit in our offices and don't engage with SMEs. So one of the biggest things that we've done differently from an ABSA perspective is say, let's have conversations with SMEs, not in our offices, but in the grounds wherever they are. So we have 87 branches, almost 80, we're going 88 branches. I think 89th one is coming in the next month or so, is to say that we have to have conversations everywhere we are to collect information that is pertinent to the SMEs. We need to know where the pain points are. So that's the first thing, to provide sustainable financing. But the second thing, as we provide this financing, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is the rules of engagement from a financing perspective, the contracts that we sign are not going to change. So we must make sure that SMEs have the non-financial support, the non-financial information for them to truly be SMEs that will grow into corporates of the future. And I say this because when we sit in our offices and say we're going to provide, unsecured lending, these are the parameters, we're going to provide trade finance, these are the parameters, but we don't go to the ground to speak in the language that SMEs understand, then it's a total waste of time. Because they will bring applications, the applications will not be, according to what we're looking for. So I say this because, when we started the journey about 6 years ago with the SMEs for ABSA Bank, we said, let's go and speak to the SMEs first and find out what they require. There were 4 basic things they spoke about. They asked sustainable financing, which really spoke to unsecured financing. How can it be easier, faster, and better for us? How can we make sure that you teach me also, what this unsecured financing is? Because the truth is, a lot of people don't have titles and security to be able to manage. So unsecured lending has become an area that, banks like us are looking into, and we are opening up. But the truth is also, as we look at this unsecured lending, we know the parameters that we're not that brave. So we've looked for credit guarantees to say, if you can support us in the conversation to SMEs, then we are bolder. So as ABSA Bank, and I know a lot of banks have engaged with organizations like Africa Guarantee Fund to say, can we support SMEs up to 50% in terms of guarantees, and therefore lend? But also for women, which is a special one, they go up to 75%. So women are also encouraged in that journey of being able to get unsecured lending. I think the third one for me, the other area in that space is to say, once we have, the people, we'll be able to talk to them, we have the facilities, but the question is, we have to go to the ground and we have to find these people. We have to find the SMEs in groups where they can have conversations together. So you cannot have conversations with SMEs on a one-on-one. Find a support group that they can be able to work with. So we've partnered with different organizations, Kenya National Trade Chamber of Commerce, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Kenya Private Sector Alliances. There's so many organizations that we look to speak to so that we can find SMEs in areas where they can speak together, we can talk to them, we can teach each other, and there's no question that is off the table, so that we learn. And I always say we need to learn and learn, relearn. So these are different things, I think, from a business perspective that we are doing that traditional banks would not necessarily do in the past 20 years. We are saying we have to engage with the SMEs where they are, listen to them, come back and craft propositions that can work for them, ensure that we can also influence organizations that we work for and the ones that we work with to support SMEs. Why do I say this? From where I sit, I deal with a lot of corporates. And with the corporates, who supports them? It's SMEs. But when the SMEs come to us directly, sometimes they're not bankable in terms of their papers that they have provided. They're desperate for these finances because it's a job in front of them. So we've also engaged with the corporates that we work with and said, can we open out your ecosystem so that we can speak to them in advance to prepare them for the kind of lending parameters, but also to use their muscles as corporates to then say we can on-lend to to their ecosystem. We can lend to the SMEs in a more flexible manner because we understand who the corporates are. But together with that, to the point that I think the PS mentioned around data collection, there's an opportunity for us to use data more efficiently. We have data amongst ourselves as banks, but sometimes we don't use it as efficiently. So it's also to partner with government, partner with different groups and people, so that how do we use this data to say we can track, we can risk mitigate. This is what we always speak about in the banking perspective. We know who we are dealing with one-on-one. We understand what they're doing, and so it makes it easier for us from a banking perspective to lend. I think the final thing for me, just to move on to the ecosystem space, and I think I touched on it a little bit, is to say ecosystem speaks to understanding the value chain end to end. And we need to define what those value chains look like. And from where I sit, saying all corporates have a value chain, even the banks have a value chain. So start from where you are. How do you support the ecosystem around you? Be able to pay them faster, to be able to provide them with facilities that make sense to them. Because, sometimes we spoke about, can we give them loans? But maybe the loan in itself is not the right way. There's a trade finance conversation. There are very many ways of being able to lend. So I say that I think the biggest difference from us as banks is we need to engage more. We can find lots of partners. I think we have walked the journey with ITC in being able to reach women, for instance, empower them to be able to trade outside our borders, to enable them to learn and relearn, to enable them to be more bold. Because, we can have facilities, we can have trainings, but then are you bold? Are you ready? Are you, to be able to engage with the environment? Do you understand the environment that we work with in terms of competition? So I think big initiatives, there's a lot to be done. We are on that journey. But I think the next year when we come here, we should be able to say, what have we done different and who are we enabled? Because the journey is to speak to who else can we support in this journey to ensure that SMEs grow. Thanks.
All right, so we've been informed that we're running out of time. We have about 5 minutes left. I don't know whether we have any burning questions from the audience. We'll take just 2 questions, then we should be done. Do we have any questions from the audience for anyone who might want to be on TV asking a question or just ask?
There.
Any burning question? One there. The mic is coming to you. Is there anyone else? There's one here.
Thank you so much. I'm called Awor Rosemary again. I'm from Uganda. I'm a micro enterprise. I'm a herbalist by profession. I treat people with food and herbs. And I encourage people to eat food instead of things. Eat food, not things, as you live here. Now, my concern is, first of all, I'm very happy and excited to be in this event. It is my first time to engage in this. And there's a lot to be done to us. As somebody mentioned there, starting from down to top would be the best approach. Because we have problems, we have issues as these micro and small enterprises that you need to know really where our pains lie. What do we need? Personally, I may not need loans, I may not need credit. Maybe I need knowledge. I need to be trained on this digitalization. So when you plan on my behalf, you may think you are helping me, yet you are killing me more. Silent injury. I'm very aware there is a digital transformation across the world. But in Africa, especially East Africa, issues of technology and digitalization, we are very poor. Actually, we are below 1%. So when we are supposed to be spotted to scale up our enterprises, you first need to make a work plan, really to bring us from down. We are very cold, by the way, when it comes to technology. Very cold.
Okay.
Very cold. That one I'm telling you, because you're speaking in the approach of office, but practically you are not small scale, you are not macro. You don't know what we are going through.
Okay. So I guess PS Karugu, that's exactly directly to you and EAC Affairs. So we'll get that
Yes.
answer to you. Please, do you mind, because we'd like to get a
Yes.
few more questions.
Thank you, thank you.
So is that okay?
Yes, so my question is, as we are now in one village as East African community, personally I experienced a problem that I need to get a solution here. We certify our products from Uganda. We get customers from our brothers in Kenya. When we are delivering, we are asked to certify our products in Kenya also. Are we really in one village?
It's a good question.
It has pained me. I make herbal wine that is for everybody. Muslims can take, born-agains can take, because it is a herbal wine which helps our health. I got clients this side. Actually, they tested in our national trade show. They needed more. I was told I have to certify my wine from Kenya, I certify from Uganda, then Kenyans can consume. This is not good. I need a solution, I need help.
Alrighty. So what we'll do is, before you leave here, we must get that answer to that question, and it's probably here on the panel. Let me bring the microphone down here to this other.
Thank you. I'm Beatrice School Moisius for East Africa Affairs. Mine is a learning process. I want to speak to the first speaker, the panelists, the first one, Utpok. I'm speaking as a chair, not as a CS for East Africa, Kenya. I'm speaking because we are moderating conversation of ratification as a community. We are facing a challenge where even as you grow, strengthen, and widen, you are adding more other partner states on board. And as Secretary of the Cabinet spoke of, we are not all equal in terms of the economy and all that standards that are supposed to be complied very fast. So when you ratify, it means you are agreeing. So you must implement whatever you are agreeing. But on a situation where you are supposed to even check whether whatever that has been ratified are being followed by the partner states. How are you coping? Because I see also that as a challenge, because sometimes if a new partner is coming, they need time, they need infrastructure, they need their own legislation in their country to facilitate what has been ratified. So my concern is at that level where you are there trying to follow up the implementation, just like as she has said, some of those implementation may not even be a partner state affair. It could even be the institutions in the very state is not even implementing. And you know, how well do we adopt ratification as a true interpretation of agreed and then followed, and the procedure is binding, cutting across those who've ratified. I just want to learn that bit. Yes, Asante. On finance, the last one on finance, the banks. We have invited official banks. But there are those other micro individual financing institutions that are so private that also need to be regulated by the state. And those are the many that are funding the MSMEs in their own private arrangements in the name of collateral, logbook, all those things. But you find the manner in which they operate on interest may even disadvantage the MSMEs. I'm just imagining when we were to regulate all that, so that next time we even invited them to the panel and we also ask them questions, because they will be having an opportunity to interact with the MSMEs, because they are the bigger package of the funding institution. Asante.
Thank you. Oh, now the hands have gone up, huh? Okay, can you please answer those three questions, and then we'll see whether we have some bit more time, and then we'll bring the microphone there. There was a first question on double certification, particularly.
Yes, thank you very much, my sister from the Republic of Uganda, who is doing herbal wine, and congratulations. Now, the issue of harmonization of standards is a live issue for us at the EAC. It's part of why we exist, because every day we have emerging products from across the region, and we also have emerging standards from across the regions, and we must match the two of them. If you visit our OSBPs, our one-stop border spots, you will find a list of 567 products that are fully harmonized and can trade easily. I want to think that herbal wines might not be one of those products, must be one of the products that we are looking to ensure that we standardize and harmonize the standards so that your products can be able not only to access the Kenyan market, but to access the larger East African space. So allow me a bit of time so that we can consult on that particular issue. I haven't heard of herbal wines, so it would require a little bit of time. But perhaps the other thing that she raised, which was very profound, was the issue of financial literacy and literacy as a whole for the MSMEs. That we are saying, oh, access to credit is a problem, but what is it if you would access credit and you don't know how to use it? So it is important for perhaps all partner states and all players to prioritize the matters of financial literacy and financial discipline for MSMEs as a precursor to access of credit. And I want to speak about access of credit a little, because like I said in the beginning, I have been a friend of this sector for a long time. I was a CEO of a microfinance institution, and therefore every day I dealt with MSMEs. And part of the things that they tell us is when they go to the banks, they're asked to give logbooks and collateral, things that obviously that they don't have. And my approach to looking at that problem is more at a larger scale. There is a phenomenon these days that I like to call the lazy banking, with all due respect to my sister Elizabeth from ABSA, and I told you I bank with ABSA, so I have a lot of respect for ABSA Bank. But bankers have developed what we are calling a lazy banking model. And it is well enabled by the national treasuries, not only for Kenya, but for the East African region and for even Africa as a whole. If African treasuries, if the national treasuries of Africa, your CBKs, your treasuries are borrowing from the banks, then you are competing. So we have governments competing with MSMEs on one resource. And what do bankers do? They want to buy the treasury bills, the treasury bonds, because they are risk-free, and they will not lend to the MSMEs. They just will make sure that the application process is longer. And I want to thank the CS for cooperatives who said we must have an honest conversation in a way that is understood by MSMEs. An MSME today in Kenya will walk to a bank and they will be given a long application process. Badala tu uambie, we have already lent to the government of Kenya, we're not going to lend to you. You make them dance in circles that are truly unnecessary. So perhaps we need to treat that problem as governments of the EAC, and perhaps cap how much you can borrow from your commercial banks so that you still leave the banks with the liquidity that can serve the MSME section. For as long as government will compete for resources with MSMEs, MSMEs will continue to lose and will not access credit. I thank you very much.
I don't have any additional, but there was one directly also, to AFCFTA. Yes, okay.
No, I just want to confirm to my sister that on conformity assessments, as the EAC, we already sitting down as countries because we understand that problem.
Please simplify conformity assessments for us.
So what she was talking about is the fact that her wine has already been tested in Uganda and approved as good. And when it comes to Kenya, before it is consumed, again, our standards have to look into that. And we sat down as countries and asked ourselves, how come when we travel from Kenya to Uganda, we eat matoke without asking whether it has been assessed or not, and nobody complains about it. So those are some of the things that we are looking and saying, can we work on a mutual recognition agreement so that we mutually agree that we are from the East Africa region. So whatever comes from Kenya to Uganda or Uganda to Kenya is considered as a transfer and therefore mutually recognized as one and works within the standard. So I just want to assure her that that is something we are looking at because it is actually a barrier to trade in itself, and we really need to remove those non-trade barriers.
Are you confident in the response? Okay, she's waiting to see. All right. Rosalind?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Madam CS, for the question to clarify a little bit about the process of domestication of the AFCFTA agreements and its attendant protocols. So once countries have signed on to the AFCFTA agreement, that signature has to translate into a ratification. So countries have different processes of ratifying. So one country may require to go to parliament, another country may just require and not deposited. So that then is ratified. But then beyond ratification, now each country also has, I'm giving you the areas, each country has a domestication process that they undertake. There are two levels. One is a domestication process of administrative matters, which does not require for a change of law. You just look at the administrative aspects of what has been agreed in the protocol or in the agreement. And then you see how to transpose it or to work it and weave it within the everyday operations of private sector and government. The second one is to change the law. So once you change the law has to then align both to the agreement, but it also has to align with the region. But the agreements are being, the protocol on the protocols and the agreement itself is standing on the existing acquis of the regions. So already it is taking into cognizance that this exists, but what else can you add? So on that part, that is a process. Now the third part is when the regional economic communities and the national government then establish national implementation committees. Those national implementation committees or regional implementation committees will then look at what needs to be done to practically align what has been agreed. So those are now the technical working groups to meet to say, where are we, what is a bottleneck? So that is a process in terms of trying to see how to harmonize. And as I answer your question also, I wish to then also speak to the question from the SME trader that mentioned about the challenges. And in terms of the challenge of harmonization, the AFCFTA agreement itself is speaking to harmonizing these rules and frameworks across the regional economic communities so that when a person is moving a good from region A to another region, there is that you are able to look at what are the laws that are there in Uganda, for example, that are applicable and should be the same laws that are applicable. We have seen challenges also where the processes there are different processes in different countries. So a trader will come and instead of taking 2 days from what they know normally, they probably take 5-10 days because of a different process that is required. And that process, sometimes when you go through an analysis, it is not necessary. So the national implementation committees and on the part of investment, the national investment focal points will then start looking at where are those concerns. And then finally, the AFCFTA agreement, together with partners, are constantly doing training engagements, both for governments and also for private sector, for them to understand what they have agreed. And it is interesting to note that the agreements, of course, are done at government levels, but different government levels do not then know what they have agreed. So the first thing is for countries themselves to understand across the government spectrum, what have we signed up to? So that when you are stopping a trader from crossing, are you contravening what you have agreed? And what do you want that trader to do in alignment with what has been agreed? So capacitation, capacity building, and then enhancement of the work of the national investment committees. Thank you.
Yes, you wanted to say something. Could I please, Elizabeth, just tell you, maybe just add one more thing as you give your remarks. You just launched the 10 billion shilling fund for young women with a 48-hour turnaround, right? So time, you've clearly mapped out time. what a lot of other people have not been able to do, but maybe just add that into some of your remarks.
Yeah, so I think you raise a valid point, and you know, just in response to Madame Karugu, as she's mentioned, you know, banks lending. Today, I think banks in Kenya are lending more than they've ever done to the SME world. Are some, you know, the question of brevity, how brave are we, will really depend on the partnerships that we then have with government, with the different DFIs, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a matter that we can, it's still open for this discussion. We as a bank, for instance, under ABSA, have been brave enough to say we have a 10 billion fund for women. It's unsecured lending. We are able to partner with AGF, like I mentioned, to be able to secure those facilities, and therefore go into areas that perhaps we'd never have gone in the past. So it is a process, and as we go along, we collect data and we get better at lending, because at the end of the day, this is shareholders' money, of which some of us are shareholders. We hold, you know, shares. So we must be responsible in the way we lend as well. But I think the biggest part is if we are able to partner with, you know, government especially, because they are key to be able to unlock these areas and walk the journey in making sure that we can train the SMEs every step of the way, and then also mentor and coach them along the way. Because the proposition we speak, for instance, for women, speaks to giving them, you know, a sustainable capital, unsecured lending that we've provided, but also speaks to access to markets that ITC supports us in, access to networking, and then access to mentoring and coaching. Because once we've trained, we must be able to go back and say, did you understand it the way it was supposed to be? What does it mean to you? Bring it down to the level where there are no, you know, there's no ambiguity. There's absolute clarity in what it is we need to do as we engage. So it's just to say, perhaps, you know, from a government perspective, it's not enough. There is more that we can do, but I think the biggest element here is partnership, and brave partnership that we can then year on year come back and say, how much more have you done? What do you need for us to do more, etc. And I think the response to the question that Madam CSU raised is to say, as a lender, and I know we are held in higher rules, even for the other lenders, we need to then say, when you're lending and the things go bad, because tough situations happen, COVID happened, you know, when taxes changed, things happened, there was difficulties for the SMEs to pay. But the question is, what is their responsibility over and above the lending piece? Do they have a responsibility to teaching? Do they have a responsibility to explaining what they do with the, for instance, the impairment book? Are we just collecting, or are we able to restructure, retrain, and ensure that SMEs have learned the lessons around lending? I think for me, the biggest piece would be to say there is lending for every, the different types of lending. But as we empower SMEs to know that when you go to the banks, this is the kind of lending, the money you will get. When you go to funds, this is the kind of lending you will have. When you go to the mobile money lenders, this is the kind of lending you'll have, so that you can make an informed decision. You cannot take a facility that is costing you a lot of money for something that is, for a holiday, for instance, because people do that. Then becomes a problem. So it's a learning conversation that we need to ensure that SMEs can work with our institutions. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I think we started this conversation when I was thinking about it in the build-up. I had cautious optimism on the opportunity and our ability to capitalize on the opportunity. But having listened to the conversation and our readiness, and also appreciating the complexity that AFCFTA comes with, even in as much as it also does come with such a huge opportunity, what we are doing at EAC level, at Kenya level, to get our SMEs ready, and to hear from Elizabeth that banks are lending to SMEs more than ever before. I was with PS Karuga before, you mentioned that. So I'm optimistic. And also to hear from Burundi on the fantastic things that are happening in Burundi as well. I'm optimistic that this regional trade can become a reality for our enterprises. George, what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I know there's a lot that we had prepared for these panels, and just for everyone in the room, we were supposed to have two separate panels, but of course, because of time, we've had to shrink it all together. I know the hands that went up, I'll still have to come and meet with you and apologize in person, but we'll be able to ask those questions in subsequent events. One thing maybe as we wrap up, and we have something from the team that will be to all of you as our panelists, one word to summarize trade in Kenya or in the region. One word.
Strengthening linkages.
Those are two.
Okay.
But it's fine. Because it's also AFCFTA. It's combining a lot of players. One word from you.
Integrated.
There we go.
Transformative.
Perfect.
Digitized.
Travail en commun, surtout en coopérative.
You get even 4 words. Perfect. I love it. So please, ladies and gentlemen in the room, please give a warm round of applause to our panelists today. As we mentioned, we have something for you. We wouldn't want you to, Mumbi, you and I don't get anything. But we would like to give something to our dear panelists for creating some time. Yes, please. Later with the rest. Yes. Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll give the mic back to our fantastic host for the day. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause to our panelists. Thank you. We almost wrapping up. And support us in that session is the Deputy Secretary General of EAC, who is coming to wrap up. I'm waiting for the panelists to settle down. Thank you so much, and even to the moderators. We didn't clap for them. Let's clap for them. I raised my hand as she comes on the stage. I raised my hand, but the moderator, Georgie and Mumbi, you did not see me, because today I'm speaking as the MSME in that tent. As I welcome Madam Annette, allow me just to say 3 things. Number 1, the lady there just repeated what a young lady 2 months ago in South Africa also raised. And she said, the policymakers, the private sectors, you are speaking the language that we do not understand. You have refused to speak our language. You are coming up with policies that we have no idea. The lady from Absa Bank, when you say the rules of the game cannot be changed, there's nothing in this world that cannot change. So we as MSME there, we are demanding that time has come where we need to restructure our framework, our financial architecture, so that then we can have as many people, especially the bottom of the economic pyramid, to be served. We're talking about digitization today, and Mercy here has taken us through what Kenya has done. We've had conversation, very beautiful conversation there. But we want to understand who is this MSME. Talked about the women and youth. Shocking to you that the average age of an African is 17 years. 17 years, average age of an African. We are talking about young people. We are talking about people who are technologically savvy. The only asset that they know well, they can call theirs, is this asset we call mobile phone. So when you talk about digital currency, technology has to work for them. It is this technology that needs to become a collateral that can give them access. We are talking about a Kenyan experience where through Hustler Fund innovation, we've been able to disburse over 80 billion to close to 27 million Kenyans across this country. Just last week, on Friday, we have launched one of the most ambitious job creation program, National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement. And from the application, from doing entrepreneurial aptitude test, up to the time of disbursement, it was purely digital. You did not have to know anybody. The 3,000 MSMEs who are here today, they expressed their interest through the digital channel. So we are saying Africa, we've come of age, where technology can help us leapfrog. So even the banks, you need to come to that reality that the only asset we have is the digital footprint. Let's turn that into collateral so that you unlock access to trade financing and for more enhanced financing to support the growth of our business. I thought if I did not say that, then that will not really have been a conversation on MSME coming from the bottom of the economic pyramid. Thank you very much, and now help me to welcome the Deputy Secretary General of ESA, who will help us to wrap up the session. He's going to take very limited time because he knows he's standing in between our lunch, right? Karibu, makofi kwake. And you pray for lunch after that.
Thank you very much, PS Susan. I will try to be very, very quick, recognizing that we've had a long morning and that our chief guest has been very patient to stay until now. Our chief guest, Honorable Dr. Wycliffe Oparanya, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Cooperatives and MSME Development, Honorable Beatrice, a school Cabinet Secretary for ESA Affairs, but most importantly, Chairperson of our Council of Ministers, Honorable Wamkele Mene, who was here, AFCTS Secretary General, Ms. Pamela Cook-Hamilton, ITC Executive Director, and the Deputy Dorothy, UN representatives, permanent secretaries, principal secretaries present, our exhibitors, who are the reason why we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great honor and privilege to participate in this inaugural EAC MSME Ministerial Roundtable, convened under the framework of the 25th EAC MSME Trade Fair. It has been an innovation from the Republic of Kenya. However, we were still able to have the celebrations as usual for our MSME days. Allow me to extend our deepest appreciation to the government and the people of the Republic of Kenya for hosting this very important event and for the excellent arrangements that have been made for our deliberations to be as productive as we have had. We equally acknowledge the International Trade Center, ITC, for its continued partnership and for helping steer the global conversation on MSME development, which this roundtable has so effectively localized within our East African context. In particular, allow me to thank our chief guest for his presence and for staying till the end of this conversation. He commissioned this event with a walk through the exhibition and also joined the dancing and the celebrations. Allow me to share a few reflections from the discussions. Over our discussions today, several powerful insights have emerged, each underscoring the important role of MSMEs in driving inclusive growth, resilience, and transformation across our region. The Executive Director of ITC reminded us of the turbulence and uncertainty in the global economy and how such instability continues to test the resilience of MSMEs worldwide. She emphasized that this adversity presents an opportunity to create the political space that puts MSMEs at the center of the national and regional policy agendas. Building on the momentum of the inaugural Global MSME Ministerial Meeting held in July, she called for full implementation of the global call to action and urged us to sustain open dialogue. She indicated the establishment of an online platform to document best practices to ensure visibility. From the UN, we were reminded that MSMEs are not passive participants in the economy, but active agents of transformation. Across the ESC, they account for the majority of employment and contribute significantly to GDP. Their growth directly advances the Sustainable Development Goals. Moving on to the FCTA, we had a lot that is happening in putting in place rules of origin across various sectors such as automotive, textile, and apparel to lay the groundwork for industrial competitiveness. A number of programs have already been initiated in fisheries, in textiles, towards this endeavor. However, one key issue that resonated across the discussions and also from our panelists is that the challenge is not the absence of liquidity, but the bankability of MSMEs. Access to affordable credit remains limited due to structured bottlenecks and risk perceptions. I would like to finalize with the insights that we had from the Cabinet Secretary, who was our chief guest. We were deeply inspired by the Cabinet Secretary, who crystallized the roundtable outcomes into 5 priority areas that must guide our regional efforts to build a vibrant MSME ecosystem. Access to finance, ensuring that MSMEs can access affordable and inclusive financial services tailored to their realities. Access to markets, removing barriers to trade, supporting cross-border linkages, and developing regional and continental value chains. Digital transformation, enabling MSMEs to adopt technology, embrace e-commerce, and leverage innovation as a competitive advantage. Green economy, promoting sustainability, environmental stewardship, and circular business models that are future-proof. Regional cooperation, fostering joint programs and harmonized policies that deepen integration and strengthen resilience. These 5 pillars echo the EAC's own strategic priorities and will be central as we align our regional agenda within the Global MSME Ministerial Call to Action that was adopted. The CS also confirmed that the EAC Call to Action will also be discussed and presented for adoption by our Summit of Heads of States. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, today's dialogue has reaffirmed that MSMEs are not merely participants in our economies, but are the foundations of East Africa's growth, innovation, and resilience. Every MSME represented at this trade fair tells a story of courage, creativity, and possibility. The entrepreneurs of East Africa are not waiting for opportunity, they are creating it. It is our collective duty as policymakers, financiers, development partners, and regional institutions to ensure that their innovation is matched by supportive policies, accessible financing, and open markets. I once again thank the Government of Kenya, the International Trade Center, all EAC partner states, and our private sector partners for their commitment and collaboration. I would like to thank our panelists and our moderators, as well as our Chief Director of Ceremonies, PS Susan Mangeni, for their contributions to the success of this discussion. May the outcomes of this roundtable translate into action that delivers, financing that flows, policies that empower, and partnerships that will endure. As I conclude, I invite you all to please visit the exhibitors, to speak to them, and to hear their perspectives directly, with respect to matters that impact their competitiveness. We bring them together only once a year, and the journey to their respective venues every year is neither easy nor straightforward. Some of them spend days on the road just to get to the next exhibition venue every year. Please support them in recognition of their efforts and because they are the reason we are here today. Thank you all for your participation. We look forward to continued deliberations over the course of this week, including our high-level opening to be graced by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Chairperson of the Summit of Heads of State for the EAC. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you once again. Let's clap for her in a better way. So, we getting into gifting. CS, we're going to invite you because you are the host of Kenyan Day, and as a tradition, the host always gives the visitors. And so we'll ask you to help us gift the high table or the premiers who are here. We have the ITC. We begin with the chair of the EAC ministers. Where is the gift? Honorable Beatrice Askol, you come forward to be gifted. Come with a gift and a photo moment there. So we'll be calling out those to be gifted. Thank you. So The Executive Director of ITC, please come forward. Makofi, let's clap for them. Thank you. The representative of Secretary General who was here with us, His Excellency Wamkulemene, Secretary General of FCFTA. Thank you. The representative of the UN, Resident Coordinator. Thank you. Secretary to the Cabinet, come forward. PS, our colleague PS from Burundi, come forward. And thank you so much for joining us in the panel. We will also revenge on your day. Thank you. PS for EAC, my sister. Thank you. I know my two colleagues, my other colleague PSs have left, but I will pick their gifts later. EAC, karibu. The moderators, beginning by Georgie, Mombi, and all the panelists, come forward for your gift. Come forward. And come forward to be gifted. All the moderators. Florina. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we want them to be gifted. Okay? Yeah. Okay, next. We still have more gifts. They're here for everybody. If you smile, I might just call your name. Keep on smiling. Basuna, thank you so much. Many. Deputy DED, please come forward. We've been working with you also to pick a gift. I'm not gifting you Mweni. Okay? Come, she's coming forward. Miss Dorothy Tembo. And Balozi from Uganda, Consulate, come forward. CCs of Nairobi, Kisumu, CCs, come forward. And Siaya, come forward to be gifted. Today we are generous. And then after this, we have lunch, muzuri kabisa. Tunaelewana? But I want to see you people smile. The Simseo chair, where is he? Simso chair. Is he around?
Sorry.
Sorry. The CEO for Micro Small Enterprise Authority, on behalf of the board director, come forward. Be what? All the board directors come here forward, especially also the chair. We still have gift. Can come forward, be what? The CEO, I'll have his package later. Come forward.
Wapigieni makofi pia wewe utapata yako.
Flavia, I want also to come forward. You really, really helped us.
Makofi ya Flavia tafadhali. Hiyo ni njaa.
The chair. Okay, on behalf of the board, the gifting for the chair, the vice chair. I have anointed you the vice chair today. Say amen. To receive yours. And now who is gifting the CS? Where is the gift? Who is gifting? No, it's okay. It was our day, will be gifted tomorrow. Thank you so much. Waziri, because you are gifting, you will be gifted tomorrow, yours. Yes, so, no. We're okay. Yeah, he has been. So who will pray for us? I'm gonna, and then you go through the national anthem and we go for lunch. We invite everybody who was in this room to come for lunch. Thank you so much. Can you gift me by at least a round of applause?
Guys, we can do better than that. Let's put our hands together proper for PS tafadhali. Tumpigie zile za moi moja. Asanti, Madam PS, for being a good MC and hosts Zawadi Funga Fungua. And also I think let's put our hands together for ourselves. Tupigeni makofi also for being a wonderful audience. Thank you so much, Waziri, for sitting in and being with us here. We truly appreciate. You've been requested that the translation device, you leave them in the room. And so at this point, I'm going to request that we say a word of prayer. PS, we wanted you to close the word of prayer. Pray for us, you pray for food. Okay, I will pray. But you know now, PS, I'll pray with Sieng. It's fine, itafika. So let's be upstanding for a word of prayer. Father, we come before you. We thank you for this meeting. We thank you, Lord, for putting together hustlers across East Africa. Lord, we thank you for the deliberation that we've had. We pray that, Lord, all that we have discussed is not going to be left in our mouths, that we're going to execute, that from this meeting, there's going to be a progression. Father God, as we go to lunch, we pray that you're going to bless us. Bless also those who don't have. In Jesus' name, I do pray, trusting and believing. We remain upstanding for the national anthem. Thank you so much. The VIPs, we can move out from this side. Ushers are going to guide us. I'm being told that everybody who is in this room has been invited for lunch. The lunch is on my right. We exit on the right side of the tent, kindly. There is a VIP tent behind this one. You exit on my right.
Miaka mitatu kule Japani kusomea udaktari Stella.